off today's show, everyone's favorite topic. America's sweetheart, Candace Owens, no longer employed by the Daily Wire. We don't know the specifics on why she's no longer employed. We don't know if she was fired or if she quit. They haven't released that information. I have my theories on which one it actually is. I'm curious to know what you guys' opinions of it are. But it almost certainly boils down to her very blatant and obvious anti-Semitism that she's been peddling the last, 2 or 3 years. And it is funny it's darkly humorous, I'll put it that way, that Candace Owens' anti-Semitism started a long time ago. The first time I can think of her saying something that was just, indefensibly anti-Semitic is when she was talking about how Hitler wasn't such a bad guy, basically, that nationalism is actually a pretty good thing. Like if you talk about Adolf Hitler, for example, all he was trying to do was make Germany great. If he'd have just stayed, within the bounds of the fear
it was like Hitler's problem was that he was a globalist.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, oh, is that his problem?
Yeah, that's it. If he'd have just stayed within the borders of the fatherland, everything would have been cool. And then she kept moving on, saying more shit about defending Kanye West and everything. But lately, she's spoken out against Israel and their actions against Palestine. But we want to make this very clear. This is not because she loves Palestinians. It's because she hates Jewish people. And so any criticisms we have would be against the state of Israel and the actions of the government. Hers are against Jewish people. And that seemed to be where the line was drawn. Like criticizing Israel seemed to be where the Daily Wire kind of pulled the rug out from her. That's my opinion. But Bree, we'll go to you first. What are your thoughts on the unfortunate departure of Miss Owens from the Daily Wire?
Is it unfortunate though?
It depends on what the perspective is.
True.
That's my first view right there. I think she was definitely fired. That's my theory. Yeah. I mean, Ben Shapiro is an Orthodox Jew. So he's co-founder of Daily Wire. She's sitting there making anti-Semitic comments. It's not really going to sit well with him. I do find it funny just because of the whole freedom of speech thing that they love to tout. It's like freedom of speech sometimes, but it depends what it is. But if we get in trouble from somebody on the left, then we're going to yell freedom of speech and be really upset. But it's okay when we do it to ourselves or we do it to other people. I think
freedom
that
of speech only for the right.
Exactly. Freedom of speech only for me, not for thee. Yep. She's made so many comments, right? Like it's not a new thing. She did the whole White Lives Matter thing too with, Kanye, and we know how far Kanye's gone off the handle. So it wasn't too surprising to me. Honestly, I'm surprised it took them this long.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that makes me think it wasn't a firing, because they could, Ben Shapiro could have fired her for anti-Semitic remarks many, many, many times. And it's not like there was some big thing that she said recently that was particularly egregious. It seems like this is more so just the two parties hated each other so much that she was just like, you know what, screw it, I'm out of here. I would put my money on her leaving, but Ben Shapiro making the workplace so hostile that didn't really give her a choice. That's what I would bet my money on. But James, what do you think?
I'm very much on the fired train.
Okay.
I think that throughout the past couple of years, Ben Shapiro and her have exchanged real good words with and about each other. And I think that this is purely one of those moments where someone's views are no longer in the interest of the person in power. I think that her anti-Semitism, because Daily Wire is such like a big outlet for the extreme right and for let's just say the far right in general, and the idea that now there's going to be cross the aisle, left and right people that are going to be effectively pro-Palestine, whether you're pro-Palestine or anti-Israel, because her anti-Semitism to the far right or the conservative right is translating into anti-Israeli rhetoric. And I think that Ben Shapiro cannot abide that. He can abide Hitler comments. He can abide all the other shit. But the moment that, I think it's very, very important, just the past 5 months that led up to it, ever since October 7th, her rhetoric ramped up. it's very much not in alignment with the power center's interest, and I think she had to go.
I will say, James, I say this on the show a lot, that I hate Ben Shapiro, but he's one of the few people on the right that I respect from a business standpoint. Like, I think that he has done a wonderful job building up what the Daily Wire is, and I wish we had something like that on the left. And I will say that I've always said Ben Shapiro, follows whatever, he'll say whatever it is to grow the Daily Wire, to give himself more power, to make his position within the Republican media sphere better. And the one time where he will be a total ideologue is when it comes to Israel. And it actually shocked me that she got this far. We're months into this now. I thought, like, if you were to ask me that, I thought that she would be fired like October 8th. And she has not. She hung around for this long. And I really think that's because of just there was a conservative effort to not be cancel culture, and they just cornered themselves into this position where, oh, well, we can't fire her for saying things we don't like, but we really want to fire her for saying things we don't like. And I think that's the only reason it's gone this long, because Candace Owens has just like been stubborn and not quit. Like that's why I think it was like she quit, because again, they could have fired her anytime. Why now?
Well, if it wasn't like an immediate firing, I'm sure, I would imagine, because I would imagine over the past few months, there's been lots of talks about her reining it in, needing to change her tone. And the thing is, I think we all can agree that Candace Owens doesn't believe anything that she's saying. Like, she's flip-flopped across the political aisle so many times that it's all what is convenient for her and her career interests and her moneyed interests, whatever. So I do wonder, like, what aspect of it, if it was like ego, like, oh, I won't do this because of like ego, like I've grown this thing that like I can't shift it. If she would have preferred to, but knows that she backed herself into a corner, being this particular type of ideologue, and that she couldn't switch course with any kind of ease, and not be seen as like false and disingenuous to her viewership. I don't know.
I don't know about that, James. I'm thinking because
she can be false and disingenuous, except for on a couple key issues. And this is one of them.
You're correct. Candace Owens has, bounced around the ideological spectrum quite often. Now, most famously, like, she knows that racism against Black people is real. She filed a lawsuit, when she was in school and everything. I do think she actually is anti-Semitic, though. Like, I do. I think she believes that with every fiber of her being, because there was no one asking her to do that. Like, there's a lot of people asking her to be anti-Black, to be anti-women, to be anti-trans. There's a huge market for that. There is a market for the staunch anti-Semitism like that, but it's not nearly large enough for her to risk her career on that. But I do agree that she was fired, because where is she going to go? Like, she wouldn't leave that paycheck if she didn't have anything lined up, and she does not have anything lined up. It's not like the day she was fired, she announced, and now I'm working with this outlet, or I'm starting, CandaceOwens.com, and there's nothing really going with that. So I don't know. And it's like the anti-Semitism, because we mentioned in Plain Times before that, the like old school anti-Semitism is what she's brought, stuff that you haven't seen in a long time in the public discourse. Like, whenever she started, talking crazy, defending Kanye and everything, and James mentioned the spat she was having with Ben Shapiro on Twitter. John and I were talking about it yesterday, how she said two quotes in there that jumped out at me, where the first thing she said was, "You cannot serve God and money," which you can't. It was like, okay, that was definitely aimed at Ben Shapiro, and that's kind of an anti-Semitic trope. It was a quote from the Bible, so you're like, okay, maybe you can let that slide. And the very next quote, like towards Ben Shapiro, she wrote in all caps, "Christ is king." Like, okay, all right, we see what's going on here. Like, we know what's up. So I think she actually is anti-Semitic. Like, she burns so many calories trying to get into this that I have a hard time buying that. It's kind of a casual, thought process for her. What do you think, Bree?
I mean, I'm with you. I think she's anti-Semitic. I think a lot of her other points are convenient.
Yeah.
As James said, they're convenient to who's watching her, who's paying attention. But I do think she's anti-Semitic. It makes you wonder what conversations her and Kanye have in private.
Could you
Because
imagine?
they're buddy, right? Like, it really makes
Just
you
being a
wonder.
fly on the wall.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Like, you see what they post publicly. So what do they say in private?
Yeah.
It's
God.
genuinely concerning.
There is this weird. I'm gonna get canceled or something for saying what I'm about to say. So there's Kanye, there's Candace, and then there's like remarks from other notable like Black media personalities and celebrities. Like I remember in Jay-Z's The Story of OJ song.
The Story of OJ. I talk about this all the time.
He makes a comment. And so I'm trying to figure out what is this correlation or what is this component that is it just like the sort of like correlation isn't causation, but they like see a lot of like Jewish people in certain parts of like the media like apparatus, and then I'll just say this. I was just in this exercise for like 10 weeks with all these cops, and I was like talking to them about the realities of American policing. But so much of the statistical evidence that I would provide, I was like known as the stats guy, just flew in the face of their immediate experience. And that there was no amount of data or research that I could give these people to make them stop believing what they know to be real through their own personal experience. So I got to wonder, is there some aspect of personal experience which we could all pull apart, with just like sort of like a Marxist analysis or something about like the relationships here, that they are not getting because they have like some relationship, some personal experience with it. Like, what is it?
I have no idea. I really don't. Anti-Semitism has always been very strange to me. It's been very, very odd, although it's got a long history in Western culture. But it's one of those baffling things to me that I read about medieval history and how, a lot of people like in Western Europe were suspicious of Jewish people. They had their own communities, their own enclaves, and Jewish people got involved in banking because they weren't subject to Christian usury laws. And that made a lot of people resent the Jewish population. Okay.
They were forced to do that. They were forced to.
Yeah. It's like I can track how people, developed these feelings. Today, I have no fucking clue. I have no idea. Not that it was justified back then. No, don't clip me on that. But it's like today, for the life of me, I can't grasp why people still hold on to this animosity. I really don't get it.
I also don't get it from. Sorry, go ahead, Bray.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you still hear those comments about blood libels. They're gonna they're gonna drink the blood of our children, our Christian children. It's like that's hundreds of years old. Yes, and it's hundreds of years old.
Was that Owens? I can't remember who said that. Was it? Okay, yeah.
She liked a tweet. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's
weird even in Europe. I would maybe get it because I feel like the racists get hard for anti-Semitism over there way more than they do here. And it's like here, I feel like the demand isn't there for like anti-Semitism. Like you have, if you're anti-Semitic in the American media landscape, you gotta be anti-Semitic to your core. That's not a front you're putting on. Like you have to believe that shit. But to answer James's question, I feel like it's an example of the mouse comic and how the famous quote from that where it was like, suffering doesn't make people good, it just makes people suffer. And it's like, I feel like that when you are part of an oppressed minority group and you are suffering because of it, you're looking for reasons why. And there's a lot of valid reasons why, but it's easier to get into the funnel and slide down the rabbit hole when you are looking for reasons why the system seems to be rigged against you. Oh, it's these people over there. Blame them. It's the same reason that, white rural people who are stuck in poverty are blaming immigrants for the Brooklyn, the bridge in Baltimore falling. Like, it's like, it doesn't have to make sense. They're just looking for someone to blame. And so I feel like that's one of the reasons why you particularly tend to see this a lot with Black alt-right people because they kind of lose a group to blame and have to replace it with something else. And an easy one is sitting right there that a lot of people are going to give them clicks.
Well, and there's people on their side that agree. So
yeah,
it's easy. It's easy to jump on that train.
Yeah,
Reminds me of
I
that.
will add. That's an excellent point, John, because when you talk to people like Hoteps or like hard right conservatives, they sound exactly like the alt right. There's very little daylight between the two. And I remember I saw some posts a while ago where people were talking about how alt right folks are, they're against interracial dating and marriage, and they have all these hard lines that they want to separate the races by, and people are mocking white supremacists for this. It's like, oh, well, how about black supremacists? Like, bro, that's what they say too. Like they say the exact same shit. It's a Venn diagram that covers the exact same group. And so I guess in that aspect, it does kind of make sense that they lump in the anti-Semitism, because that's what the white alt-right people do as well.
Maybe there
Convenient.
also is, I guess Jay-Z's the outlier here. Like Kanye West has like a lot of mental issues. Jay-Z, just seeing like that little comment peppered, it's always just like been in the back of my brain.
For the audience members who are not aware of this comment, what was the lyric? Because I actually I know what you're talking about, but
it's from a song, "The Story of OJ" by Jay-Z, and the whole point, if you don't mind, James, the whole point of the story of OJ is Jay-Z is giving a lesson to us normie black people on how to be rich. That's basically the lesson of it. And it's funny to me for a lot of reasons. Like, because the first example he gives, I think, is how he bought this apartment complex for $3 million.
Should have bought it, and then it got
a bunch. Okay,
yeah, he should have bought it
for a few $1 million, and now it's worth like 5 times as much more, like $15-20 million. And then he bought like this expensive painting or something, and for millions of dollars, they ended up becoming worth more. And then he makes this comment,
and he says, "Why do you think Jewish people all own all the property in America?" So he says that line.
Yeah,
weird. That's a weird line,
right?
Yeah,
Why does that need to be included?
And just randomly thrown in there?
It's so bizarre. The entire song is so weird, because this is Jay-Z. This is the whole point of the song. It's like, hey, I'm Jay-Z, your friendly neighborhood billionaire. I'm going to tell you black people how to be just like me, another black billionaire. So here's the first step: be Jewish. Okay, you're not Jewish. Okay, all right. Step 2, I need you to be a world famous, talented music artist and producer. All right, that's your next step. Step 3, marry an equally famous, world talented artist, and then combine your wealth. After that, buy property, real estate, and invest in art. And there you go. Those are all the steps. That's just like, the song doesn't make any sense at all, even if you take it seriously. But yeah, that line about why do you think Jewish people own all the property in America, this is how they did it, is fucked up, man. Like I didn't get that at all.
No. Oh yeah, he says this is how they did it. Credit. So it's also talking about like Jewish history and banking. And so I feel like there's got to be some historical component in the black community about like really understanding a relationship about wealth and power, especially if you're in New York, seeing centers of wealth in various Hasidic communities over here. And, obviously there's like other components. And I feel like in the same way that you were talking about, like effectively in capitalism, there's no center. So you have to like pick one thing, very like conspiratorial, one thing, the Illuminati, if you will, or something. And I feel like that's got to be like the starting point that gets people into this rabbit hole of radical anti-Semitism, like the Candace Owens type or the mentally unwell Kanye type.
Well, and there's the Christianity part. Like black people are the most Christian group in the United States. And this isn't to disparage people who practice Christianity, but a lot of anti-Semitism there, And so, I mean, like John and I talk about all the time how the Catholic Church, for example, didn't what was it? They didn't overrule their stance on Jewish people being collectively responsible for the death of Christ until 1964. I mean, for a long time, that was the official stance of the Catholic Church until, like my parents were born. So yeah, wild shit going on there.
All right, guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of this episode. And this is a special one because this week is when we unveil Project 2028. So if you're into that, make sure you leave a comment, like this, subscribe, because I think I'm going to have to talk with James after this and organize this. But before we do that, let's definitely introduce you guys to our amazing guest this week. Bree, I'll let you go first. Tell our audience where they can find you.
Hey everyone. Thanks for having me, John and TJ. I appreciate it. You can find me on TikTok. I'm also on Instagram, and I'm trying to start a YouTube channel, so I'll get there eventually, but I'm mostly on TikTok right now. My username is @thesavagetruth. And yeah, come follow me.
James, where can everyone find you?
Hey everybody. Yeah, it has been an absolute pleasure talking to you guys. You guys can find me on TikTok, Instagram, or the old www dot. That'll be Comrade Workwear, pretty much anywhere.